Let's start out with some work on exponential functions. So today we're going to go through and just figure out what the equation of an exponential function is, whether I'm given 2 points or whether I'm given a graph. Either way, that's what we're going to go through and do. So let's say our first example has 2 points. We've got 1, -6 and 3, -24. While we're doing this, we have some things to keep in mind in the back of our heads, such as any exponential function is just written of this form. F of x is equal to a times b raised to the x power. A couple of things that we have to remember is that we have to remember that a cannot equal 0. Additionally, that b has to be strictly greater than 1. Can't have a negative, because if you think about what happens if I have a negative in here and I go from an even to an odd exponent, it's going to change signs. So every time I go even, odd, it's going to change positive, negative, and that's not going to give us a function. It's just going to be two sides of a curve, and you can't do it. All right. So we keep everything strictly to where b is greater than 1, and it also wouldn't make sense to have any values that are negative if we bounce back and forth. So let's take the values, substitute them into the equation. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to solve systems of equations, but in this case, the equations are going to be exponential forms. So let's take our values in. So let's see, if I use this as my base, which we should be. All right. So if I use the first point, here's y, which is the value of the function. So -6 is equal to ab to the first power. Then the second equation would be -24 is equal to ab to the third power, because that's what my x value is. Nice thing here is I can already figure out what a is and substitute it in. So if I divide both sides by b, I get -6 divided by b is equal to a. Substitute that in here. So -24 is equal to, in parentheses, -6 divided by b times b to the third divided by 1. And I'm just putting the 1 in there just to make my life a little bit easier. All right, so I have a b down here, I have a b cubed up here, so then I'm going to get -24 is equal to, we're going to have -6, and then since I have b cubed up here and have a b down here, that means I simplify that down to b squared, divide both sides by -6, I'm going to get that 4 is equal to b squared. Take the square root, we now have that b is equal to plus or minus 2, because we took the square root. So then I come back up to the definitions here, and it says, you know what, b can't, it has to be greater than 1. So therefore, b is only going to be 2. So the nice thing is now I know what b is. b is equal to 2. So substitute that into one of these functions. I'm going to substitute it into the first one because it's got the least amount of arithmetic in it. So -6 equals a times 2. Granted, we usually write that as 2a. I'm just holding into the order. So we'll go through and rewrite that. Divide both sides by 2. And I get that a is equal to -3. So now I know what a is. I knew what b was. I'm just going to drop it into this equation. So f of x, the function that is relative to x that has these 2 points, is going to be -3 times 2 to the x power. And that's the same way you're going to do every single one if you're given 2 points. You go through, you figure out what the a value is, substitute that into the other equation, solve, and then you're going to end up just rewriting it. All right, so now let's try it if we've got points. So here I want to try to find some points, and I see one is right there, so that point is going to be 0, 3. That's a 0, sorry. And let's find another one that it goes through. So it looks like it goes through there. Looks like it goes through again there. So, and then, yeah, that's about it. So we'll go with, I'm going to go with this one. All right. So I have 2 points now. I have 0, 3, and I have the point 1, 6. Well, the nice thing is this right here, when it says 0, 3, this is the y-intercept. So if that's the y-intercept, then I have the equation y equals a b to the x. So when x is 0, anything to the 0 power is 1. So that means that right away, not only is this going, the y-intercept, but that also then tells me what my a value is going to be. In other words, if I have nowhere on the x, if I go nowhere, I'm staying right here at the origin for the x value, I'm at 0 for the x value, then my y value is 3. So that gives me that part already. Now it's actually a little bit easier because I just take the 6, 1, meaning 6 for the y, 1 for the x. So I have 6 is equal to 3 b to the first power. Well, b to the first power is just b. So I divide both sides by 3, and I get that b is 2. All right, so this means then y equals, let's see, I've got a is 3 times b is 2 to the x. These two just came out similar, but they're really not always going to be like that. All right, so they're going to be different varieties. So we had the first one was negative for my a value. These two just happen to come out with 2, but you can get any value. And the nice thing is that this method will work for all of them. It doesn't matter what you have. All right, so then again, this is Robert Main coming to you from the Charahoe area over in Rhode Island. Hopefully this was helpful, useful, and that you learn more about exponential functions. All right, thank you.